Welcome to Beyond the Shelf. I'm Jenny.
I am Dawn.
Today we have an extra special guest. We have a former director of Orrville Public Library who's actually the director at Rockford Public Library in Illinois. And her name is Lynn Stainbrook. Thanks for joining us today, Lynn.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Hooray.
What years were you director in Orrville?
I was trying to think about that. I started, I think, in August of 1987. I remember we moved here about 2 weeks earlier in order to, get settled into the new place. I had a 1-year-old at the time. She just turned 39, if that tells you how long ago that was.
Ouch.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was born in August of 1987,
Yes.
so I was like, when you said...
And then I left technically it was January of 1998.
So just over 10 years you were here.
Just over 10 years, yep.
Wow, I did math pretty fast.
That was great. Good job.
That's awesome. We just kind of wanted to hear some interesting stories from you. I think you said something about the roof collapsing after story time.
Yes. Well, at the time, it was only the 2-story building that some people will remember, and had a separate entrance down to the lower level, and there was an elevator in that level as well, and that's where children's was definitely on a floor removed. And we had our regular story time in a meeting room just kind of off that area, but children were back in the room and picking out books, and there were parents around. And all of a sudden, the ceiling above from the floor, on the first floor of the library, the upper level, started collapsing. And huge amounts of ceiling. They didn't have tiles. It was like just long plaster that came down. Fortunately, most of it over the stacks area. There were stacks in the middle of the room, and it kind of came down of that area. So the worst that anybody got was sort of the spray of plaster on them in terms of that. But that was for me the breaking point of. It was bad enough that the building was flooding all the time, but when the ceilings start collapsing, we really needed to do something about the building, and we needed a fix. So that was it. And I had, of course, this room full of mostly mothers. There may have been some dads, but back in those days, it was mostly mothers who were there for a 10 o'clock story time, and who were witnesses and were for sure going to go out and tell a lot of other people about what had just happened at the library. So it turned out maybe to be a blessing in disguise, that it really got us activated in terms that we needed not just an addition, but we needed a fix in the building.
Right. So right after that would have been when they did the renovation and added on the rest of the library as we know it. A couple years.
I would say like two years or so.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was probably my most horrific. The flooding, again, there was your drive up window area was an alley at that time. And then there was a parking lot in some area of that's now part of the library, the new library. And so people used to come from both the alley and the parking lot down a ramp entrance to get into the lower level, so that there was a wheelchair accessibility. Now, mind you, it didn't meet ADA. It was far too steep for that. But on the other hand, when the community designed that and put that in, they definitely were thinking ahead. So they were putting in a ramp for wheelchair access even before it was required by law. It just didn't quite meet the new law's recommendations.
Sure.
But then what turned out to happen to us is that with all of the new construction and things happening in the area during that time period, the water, the sewer lines in particular, were sort of overwhelmed. And so it would leak and sort of bubble up and wouldn't go down. And because this ramp was the lowest possible place, all of the water would go down the ramp. And it had a glass door on that, and we could see the water like kind of my waist level. That's how high up the water would get. And of course, it would leak in underneath a door. And our solution at that time was to use the elevator that would go down from the top floor down to the lower level, and it was kind of right there. Send the elevator up to the second floor, but then pry open the doors and sweep the water that was coming in into the elevator shaft because it had a pump in there. Of course, the pump was really just pumping it right back outside, but it did sort of spread it out a little bit, and it kept the water from going. But, what we were finding is that if this happened during a time when the library wasn't open, the water would seep all the way down the hallway into the children's room. But, we worried so much about water getting into those electrical outlets, and that kind of thing. So that was another one of the, we've got to do something about this. We've got to do something about this. So, yeah, it was, there were issues in the building.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm just thinking from what I've read from renovations that were done when they first built the building in the 40s and then the 70s, is that when it came time, it was definitely time that the building needed renovated, that it needed expanded. So that's definitely sounds like what was happening there. I'm trying to visualize, because where we are right now is what would have been the children's room when you were here. This is now
Are you in the lower level?
We are, yeah.
So
this is
with the fireplace.
Yeah, with the fireplace. Yep.
Yeah, that would have been the children's area.
Right.
Yes, you're right.
And so the hallway right out here, I've noticed when it rains, because the bottom of the door seam doesn't quite meet the threshold that you can hear the water, but there's a drain right outside the door, and we never have water pooling up there anymore. But I can visualize that.
I remember when the children's department was in the basement. It's not right there, but I do remember coming downstairs with the kids. Do you have any happy memories that were not catastrophic?
I would say the bulk of the 10 years and plus that we were in Orrville were wonderful years. One of the things I loved best about Orrville was the community. It was just such a supportive community. We moved here, as I said, with a 1-year-old. My husband got a job in Worcester, and if something happened, as it did, I'm sorry, I'm going to another catastrophe, the power plant had a problem. And so we were 3 days without power in the community. Well, we did shut down the library, but there were still things that had to be done in the library. And, I don't have family in the area to be able to take care of childcare, to do any of those kinds of things. So, neighbors did that for me. I mean, it was one of those things. It was also, it used to be big that at the schools there was Grandparent Day. But again, I didn't have grandparents. But the wonderful Dorothy Hartnagel went to school, and she didn't pretend to be my daughter's grandparent, but she came in as a surrogate grandmother, and everybody was like, "Oh, it's so cool! Your grandmother is Mrs. and Ankle, as they called her, Heart and Ankle, rather than Hartnagel." But she was truly wonderful. So the support from the community nature was just really wonderful, and I still miss that as somebody who's lived in suburbs. I'm not a suburb fan. I'm sorry. There's no community there in suburbs, and so that is one of the things that was the highlight for our life was being in a community that sort of looked after things, that you could call and say, can you get the child off the bus or something of that nature. So that was great. Part of that really was the staff at the library and what they were able to do. You certainly know Margaret Sander, who is retired, and Deb Bukovitz used to be the children's librarian. She's retired. She went back to the schools afterwards, but she was great. Jana,
yes,
is still there. Pearl, is she still on staff?
She is. Yep.
Yeah. And so just, wonderful people. Board members were incredibly supportive. It was a wonderful place to live. It was a family. to be with. So I loved working here. There were some good things that I did. I didn't just complain about ceilings falling down, but
Just so you know, Lynn, that is a completely validated complaint. I think don't feel bad about that.
Ceiling falls on you. Yeah.
well, one of the things that was pointed out when I came back for the 100th anniversary was the play and learn kits. The PAL kits are still around, and they were something that we put together, got a grant for, and put together and started. And I loved the name that somebody came up with, and I'm sorry I've forgotten who that was. And if anyone claims it from back in those days, they're probably true that they came up with the PAL kit or the play and learn kit. So, those were some things. Obviously, getting the building to be able to where it's at, of being able to close the alley and so that we could use that as a drive up, being able to close the other alley so that we could expand the building over it, being able to buy the two churches that were where your current parking lot is and having to tear them down and still going, even after we'd done all of that, still going to the public. And I looked back on it, and we passed those referendums at 65% yes, which is enormous in an area, especially having made some of these dramatic changes. You would have thought people would have thought, oh, they've torn down churches, they've done this, and do we really want them to do a new building? But they trusted us to do a nice job with the building, and it did turn out beautiful. So it's very nice. It fits in lovely. We did a lot of really story times. Dorothy Hartnagel was our story time guru. She was fabulous. We had I think I looked up statistics at one point. It's something like 600 kids a month that were in story time. It was amazing. Wow. There were 3-year-old story times. There were 2-year-old story times. There were, I think there were lap sit ones for babies. There were evening story times, both I think a 6:30 and then a 7 o'clock one for different ages. We had a lot of story times going on.
I think a lot of those are still ones that we carry on with, that we're still doing. And I would still say, like, story times are a bread and butter of the library for sure.
Yeah. It's neat to me because a lot of the times they are stay home moms, and then they are building connections with each other. And I love that. Sometimes they get together, outside of the library.
Right.
And I think that's really cool. Where it started, though, was just a story time with their toddler or whatever. Yeah.
Well, and Dorothy's rule used to be that I think maybe at age 4 that she really encouraged the child to come in alone and the parent to, be able to kind of let go. Maybe it was earlier, maybe it wasn't 4, I can't quite remember. But that was a wonderful time for the moms, and they were primarily moms back then, to be able to talk to one another and to form those kinds of bonds. So I was very proud. We really did not have, I think there was like one story time a week prior to that, and that was it. So it was nice to really see that grow.
Develop that program.
How many story times do we have now? There will be at least 2 or 3 in a day sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, we do them Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then there are 2 evening ones as well. Was Orrville your first director job in the library?
No, it wasn't. My first director job was a small library in Milton, Wisconsin. When I say small, it was 670 square feet.
Wow.
It was a rental, kind of a storefront. We used to joke that the original closet became the children's room, and it was just about that small. It needed a fix too. And I was pleased. I think that was one of the things the board liked, is that I did negotiate. The local college, Milton College, had gone bankrupt, more or less, and the government owned the college library building. And so our local congressman turned it over to us, and the board president paid out $1 for the building. And so
Nice.
We did get, now the city shared the building with the library for a while, but that was my first adventure into kind of building projects and looking at things. I was not expecting to do that when I came to Orrville, but I guess I stayed long enough that that happened in Orrville, that we needed a building fix as well.
So overall, how long have you been in the library world?
I actually started in college as a 17-year-old, but I started out just like shelving books. And then someone took pity on me because I'm not exactly huge of a person, and sort of said, "Oh, can you type?" And so they started putting me on what's called copy cataloging, where they had a whole bunch of books that came in and you would look them up in records, and they had these big, huge books from Library of Congress, and you would look up something similar, and then there were certain rules that you had to use in order to amend to what you actually had in front of you. And that we had this fancy typewriter that you could type out one and then make duplicates of. So for the card catalog, it was perfect because you could use one as a shelf list. You could use one for variety of subjects and title and that sort of thing. So you only had to type it once. That was pretty special to be able to do that at the time. So I started out kind of doing that as really as a 17-year-old, and kind of knew that, this looked like something I might want to do. I graduated from college and then went back to work at that local college library. They offered me a job. And then I also got and was hired under the old Library Services Construction Act money to be a librarian for the residential Wisconsin School for the Visually Handicapped, which was very interesting to me in working with Braille books and the audio tapes that they had, which were a little bit different than the public audio tapes. And
now you're outside of Chicago and you're Packers fans.
Oh, yeah, but this is far enough away from Chicago that it's a city in its own right. And I would say that 40% of the people in town might be Packer fans, and maybe another 50% that are Bears fans, and then like 10% that are these oddball things for some reason or other. They moved from other places.
One last question that we like to ask everyone when we get a chance is, do you have a favorite book that you're reading right now, or a genre that you just always kind of gravitate towards?
Well, I'm always a mystery reader.
Okay.
And I just finished reading the latest book of the Thursday Murder Clubs.
Oh, yeah.
But what I'm really, really enjoying and kind of going back, I've read them all, but I'm kind of going back through are Louise Penny's books set in Canada, with Gamache, the
inspector.
Yeah. And that just has so much heart and so much empathy in the books that, just shine through, that I just really, really, really enjoy that. But the Thursday Murder Clubs have been fun because they're like my age now, and they're funny, and I've been enjoying those. But yeah, those would be the genre that I like.
All right.
Well, Lynn, we appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. Thank you for everything that you did at Orrville, that Dawn and I are sitting here and we're not in floodwater, or a ceiling is not on our head. We appreciate that.
Yes. Well, thank you. Thank you. It was fun to go down memory lane for a little bit.
Good. Well, you take care. I'm sure that they're loving you there in Rockford. Do you think this will be where you retire from?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I've announced my retirement is August 5th.
Oh, congratulations.
Yes.
That's the day before my birthday.
Well, there you go. Everything's about her. What
It
can
is.
I say?
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Lynn. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
September events.
It looks like it's going to be a great September, great kickoff to the new school year and fall. So our book club started last month in August. It's continuing this month. It'll meet on Thursday, September 11th at 10 a.m. and 6:30 p.m. The book that they will be doing in September is James by Percival Everett. And I believe this is like a retelling of Huckleberry Finn.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, it's very wildly popular. I have it on my phone. I'll probably have it read by then. I just haven't started it yet.
Awesome. Teens are invited to a puzzling challenge on Saturday, September 13th at 11 a.m. So you can get some friends together, make a team of 4, and compete to see who can put a 500-piece puzzle together the fastest.
Do they need to register for that?
Yes. Register your team. You can call the library. You can do it online. You can come visit me.
Perfect. And then we're doing this preschool play lab again, which will be Wednesday, September 17th at 1:30. That is from ages 2 to 5. We'll have a bunch of hands-on activities, and you do not have to register for that. Just come with your little ones up to your almost kindergarten ones.
Exactly. The Youth Book Club will be meeting again on Thursday, September 18th at 4 p.m. This is for grades 4 to 6, and they're going to talk about their favorite books. The registration for that starts on September 4th, which for when this comes out is yesterday, I think.
Okay. So registration started in the past.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, it's time again for the Friends Used Book Sale. Wow, that's going to be September 18th, 19th, and 20th. Also, September 20th, which is Saturday, we will have our fall plant exchange, and that will start at 10:30. Does that go till close at 3, or does that kind of end at about 2 or
It
1?
usually ends around noon.
Oh, so about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
To bring your plants, or grab some plants.
Yeah.
If you're a plant person, you need to be here.
Be here, exactly. Yeah. If you are a lover of Bluey or know a lover of Bluey and bingo, you should come to the library the week of September 22nd. That whole week is Bluey Bonanza. There will be activities all week long, like crafts and scavenger hunts and other fun things. And then Saturday, September 27th is our Centennial Saturday, which is kind of a wrap-up celebration for our 100th anniversary this year. And Bluey will be there as well.
Well, perfect.
That is from 10 to noon.
Okay. Yes, and also, you can still keep reading, though. Reading does not end on September 27th for the 100 books and stuff. So that goes through still to December.
Yes.
And then finally, Teen Book Box registration is the week of September 22nd through October 4th. That's for grades 6 through 12. Dawn picks out books, 2 or 3 books?
2.
2 books, and she usually puts in a little treat. Pickup for that is the week of October 13th through the 18th.
Yes. Awesome.
So, yeah, September is shaping up to be a great busy week. The week of September. I've changed the calendar.
The
whole
month
30
of September.
Whatever days. It's a long week in September. All right, thanks for joining us.
See you at the library soon.